The hunt for that elusive first Premier League home win continues. It's now 7 without a win, a bad performance, a bad game, and an even worse result. This is Blue Monday. That was a bit downbeat, wasn't it, Seb? We're in the Premier League. It's all fine. It's all fine. Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. This is a live match reaction show. My name is Mikey Pensy-Smith, and joining me is my fellow Ipswich Town exile, Seb Brown, who last season joined me for loads of exciting wins to talk over on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. But this time, we're here to talk about a bit of a horror show, really, wasn't it, Seb? Ipswich 0, Crystal Palace 1.
It was. You and me sat here probably, I don't know, 6, 7 times last season and bemoaned the fact that we couldn't get to Portman Road to see these 4-3 victories, these 3-2 victories with late goals. And tonight, I think we're probably quite grateful that we had to endure that from our living rooms rather than be out there in the cold at Portman Road. As you say, a poor night, a poor performance, a really bad result. So far, the Leicester game isn't going probably how we want it. And yeah, we are where we are. We used to love 3-game weeks, but it's fair to say this one's been a bit of a slog so far, which I guess puts a lot of pressure onto the Bournemouth game at the weekend.
And Seb, you're an optimist like me. You fully expect us to stay up this season, but is this probably the least optimistic you've been after a game?
Yeah,
the West Ham was bad, wasn't it? But it was pretty early on, and then Everton was a difficult one to take as well. But tonight we just looked very average, didn't we?
We did, yeah. I think the West Ham was a bit of a thumping, wasn't it? But being away from home, you can kind of accept those kind of results can happen in the Premier League. Everton, I thought, schooled us. And I guess we've now got this bit of a block, against the likes of Liverpool for 45 minutes, Man City for 4 minutes or whatever it was, Spurs away, Man United at home. We seem to be able to raise ourselves for kind of, the big teams and the big occasions. But then your West Hams, I'm not going to count Leicester because that should have been 3 points. That should have been our first home win of the season. But West Ham, Everton tonight against Palace, are we perhaps kind of suffering against the sides that we really need to take points off? It's great getting a point against Man United, and of course going away to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and getting 3. But the games that are going to keep you in the Premier League are your West Hams, your Evertons, the sides that are in and around you in that mini league. And so far, obviously, we've not managed to beat any of them.
Yeah, and hello and welcome to everyone that's joining us live in the chat. Get you to do some questions. If you put a Q at the start and a question mark at the end, we'll read them out later on when we've talked about the game in as much detail as we want to. Although one comment so far, Seb, has caught my eye. I think this is either not an Ipswich fan or it's a joke. Not sure which one this falls under. Stephen Girling says, not many managers survive 1 win in 14. Nice guy, but McKenna is out of his depth and needs to go. Do you think there's many other managers that would be doing as well with or doing better with this squad, Seb?
No, I don't. I think the list of clubs that were queuing to get him in the summer show how highly rated he is. We have to be realistic. We've ended the game with a load of the players that were with us on the League One journey out on the pitch, and I presume Stephen there is either not an Ipswich fan or just come along for a bit of trolling. But yeah, there we go.
There we go. So let's talk about team news, Seb, because there was quite a few changes for tonight's game, wasn't there? The headlines, I suppose. One wasn't really a shock. Harry Clark comes in at right back, but there's also a start for his namesake, Jack Clark. But yeah,
so obviously Tuanzebe obviously with the hamstring injury, the big blow from Saturday's result. Ben Johnson clearly not fit enough to start, back amongst the subs, but not quite fit enough to start yet. So Harry Clark is the obvious deputy to come in at the right back position. And then there's been some debate, hadn't there, online, on social media, I think in the forums, about kind of Jack Clark versus Sammy Smodic. Is Smodic more of a away game player potentially, but he had been quiet the last couple of games, and I guess Clark did do a couple of decent things at Forest. He beat his man a couple of times and perhaps did deserve that start. And I guess we talked about it on the Flagship as well. If you're struggling without George Hurst on the bench and you're going to have to replace Liam Delap, we'll discuss Al Hamadi, who I thought was bright when he came on. But keeping Schmodic on the bench as potentially your Delap swap out at 65, 70 minutes is probably quite sensible as well, given we are kind of the squad is looking stretched and tired, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to see different lineups over the next few days. It's going to be a different lineup again on Saturday, Seb, you'd imagine, especially after the performance. What do you think? Jacob Greaves did enough tonight to sort of, or do you think he's just the man for that left-sided position, and that Burgess has kind of had his spell in the team, and he might come back in if Greaves gets injured?
I think a fully fit Greaves is he's ahead of Burgess. We paid big money for him, and it's a bit like last season when Edmondson would come in, but then when Burgess is either back from international duty or back fit again, he would replace him, and Edmondson kind of drops out the side. I didn't think he looked fit tonight, particularly. He's missed a lot of football, and I was surprised given the physical presence of Mateta. Palace had an awful lot of big players in their lineup, but Mateta especially is a big handful. And I just thought maybe that's one last game for Burgess, and if you want to get Greaves back in, potentially the weekend against Bournemouth might be the slightly easier of the two to do it. I thought Burgess may have kind of handled Mateta's physicality a little bit better, as we'll probably discuss with the crucial goal.
And we looked pretty good last week playing against Manchester United, playing with a wing-back system, and that's how Crystal Palace play. So they had Stephen Henderson in goal, Munoz as right wing-back with Mitchell left wing-back, and then it was a return to Portman Road for Tractor Trevor Chalabar, right-sided centre-back with Mark Gay and Lacroix, the other centre-backs, and then it was a defensive midfield duo of Will Hughes and Decore, and then Sarr off the right wing, Eza sort of drifting in that left wing position behind big Jean-Philippe Mateta. And it is big Jean-Philippe Mateta, isn't it, Seb? He's a big old unit.
Very much so, and the three centre-halves as well. Liam Delap, bless him, didn't get much of a kick on Saturday against Morello and Milenkovic, and I thought the three Palace centre-backs, Trevor Chalabar was kind of a defensive midfielder when he was here in the Paul Hurst, Paul Lambert season, the relegation season. He's clearly made that right-sided kind of in a three, his own position. He's played it at Chelsea when the likes of Conte was playing a back three, and obviously, Mark Gay, he's linked with Newcastle for 60 million quid in the summer and went away with England to the Euros, and Lacroix looks like a solid signing to replace Anderson. So yeah, they're very big both at the back and up front as well. And it's just with the likes of Eze, who can kind of drift a little bit and look to get on the ball in crucial areas. Munoz and Mitchell were playing really high, weren't they, in that first half? The wing backs were certainly getting forward with that solid base behind them, which Delap did kind of struggle against. He was outnumbered and outfought on a couple of occasions, I thought.
And you could see quite early on, Seb, a lot of teams this year have really gone for us with their press, with us trying to play out from goal kicks and so on. But Palace didn't do that at all. They were happy for Muric to pass it sideways to Greaves or to O'Shea, and then they'll try and swarm you as soon as you get out into the sort of middle third of the pitch. And they, to be fair, they did that quite effectively. It's a relief in a way that Muric isn't being pressed immediately, but then you realise that when you obviously get the ball up, you play the ball out, but then Palace are just ready and set around you to win the ball in those positions. But yeah, Harry Clarke, it was a big night for Harry Clarke. A lot of people talking about what a drop down in quality he is on Tuan Zabi. And he obviously had that difficult debut at Brentford where pretty much every mistake he made cost us. And then he has just been out of the side for a few weeks, but he plays a fantastic ball, the outside of his right foot in behind for Burns in the 10th minute. But Burns, he just, as he has done a lot of the time this season, he sprinted onto it, but lacked a bit of conviction, looks around and then ends up losing his feet, and the chance is gone. But a nice early start that from Harry Clarke. He looked fairly assured in the early minutes, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He was getting a bit of joy down that right hand side. Burns is a strange one, isn't he? He just doesn't look the Wes Burns that we've seen of the last 2 years. League One and the Championship level, you know what he's going to do. He's going to drive down the byline, look for the cut back to the penalty spot, or kind of fizz it low into the near post. And I appreciate, he's playing against more athletic players, better players who can read the game better and are physically stronger than him. But every time he kind of has a chance to kind of take his man on, whip in a quick ball, he seems to check and come back down the line or come inside. And I thought he struggled tonight, but that was a nice moment. The bit from Jack Clark was a nice ball through, and I kind of thought maybe we'll get some joy. But Burns did struggle a bit tonight. But to be fair, they all pretty much did. You're not going to give anyone in that lineup tonight more than probably a 5, are you? A 5 or a 5.5. So one opening moment in a game that was just, it was very nothing really happened at all, did it? Like you say, Palace were perfectly happy for us to let Muric have the ball, pass it to O'Shea or pass it to Burgess. Then as soon as that ball was coming out of the area, they were starting to swarm us. The back three were kind of getting high onto the halfway line, and the wing backs were going high, and Decore and Hughes were kind of having a bit of a midfield tussle with Morsey and Kiyust, I thought looked bright at times, but it became very clear, I thought fairly obvious, it was going to be a bit of a struggle this game, and it was kind of going to be a war of attrition where that first goal is absolutely crucial, because very little was created in that opening period.
Yeah, it looked to me that Palace were happy for us to try and come onto them, and then they'll try and pick their moment to hit us on the break. They had one such opportunity where Ismaila Sarr has a run at Darragh O'Shea, and O'Shea brings him down. Probably a good foul, although Sarr was running away from goal. Probably a decent foul to make with the pace that he has. And then he gets a bad head injury a few moments later, doesn't he, O'Shea? A real bad cut beneath his eyebrow. That looks really bad on the TV coverage, didn't it?
Yeah, it looked awful. It was against Mateta, wasn't it? I think he must head the back of Mateta's head. They both kind of go down, and then he's got the blood pouring out of him. The physio comes on. Palace have got a corner, so obviously O'Shea is staying on the pitch as long as he can for treatment, because he doesn't want to be off it when the corner is swung in. And every time the camera zoomed in, it looked a hell of a gash, didn't it? And then they put the magic kind of Vaseline on it, and he goes off and gets the headband. It didn't appear to hamper his evening at all, but when the camera zoomed in, that looked really nasty one.
And Burns, to his credit, we've criticised him sort of offensively already in this show, but he does an excellent bit of defending on 38 when Eberechi Eze gets slipped in behind, and he deflects a shot up into Muric's arms. Good covering that from Wes Burns, covering Harry Clark. That's a part of his game that we do know that Burns does well, and he stuck to his task well there.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it was a moment for Eze, wasn't it? He gets in behind you thinking he's going to pull the trigger, but Burns tracks him all the way and gets a block in that kind of takes the sting off the shot, and Muric is able to gather. So yeah, if I criticise him offensively, I have to give the credit defensively. There was a great track on the run from Eze, because Eze is such a clever player, isn't it? He can drop into the space, he can pick a pass, as we'll discuss in the second half, and you're kind of thinking when he's in that position, ready to probably open up his body and shoot across the keeper, Burns does really well to get back, take the sting off the shot, and the chance is gone, thankfully.
And Decore, hadn't mentioned this, he's been booked already at this stage. Kiyust does a fantastic little turn on the halfway line. Decore brings him down. He doesn't have much of a choice, but that's one of those, there's the potential second yellow card, that. And the commentary said that if he hadn't been booked already, that would have been a yellow card just for that foul alone. And then he gets subbed at half time, Seb, which maybe tells its own story.
Yeah, I think Glasner probably knew he was on his very, very last warning, wasn't he? If he's not booked, there has to be a higher bar, doesn't it, for the second yellow? So if he's not booked, it certainly is a yellow. But equally, I was fairly surprised that we're sat here and Sam Morsey is able to line up against Bournemouth on Saturday. So if we kind of, if we accept the Decore one, we kind of have to probably hold our hands up and accept that Morsey probably should have been booked in that first half as well. So yes, frustrating that he didn't get the second yellow for stopping the attack in the centre circle. And Glasner clearly knew one more and he was gone. But equally, we got out of jail a little bit without Morsey picking up that booking.
Yeah, there was some weird ones. Morsey's very good at I know he gets booked a lot, but he could be booked in every game, and he seems to be able to talk to the refs and make sure that he doesn't get that booking. Because I think I saw the ref count up the fouls that he'd done, and this was in the first half. He'd already done 3 fouls, so he could have been booked, and then he did 2 or 3 more in the second half. A couple of them maybe a little bit harsh, but yeah, as you say, good to have him in that Bournemouth game. Maybe the suspension will become later. Maybe Arsenal, we could probably live with him being suspended for that one. Seb, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he'll pick. Chelsea is the cutoff, isn't it? I think the Chelsea game is that the point where it goes to 10 yellows. So what's he got? Another 5 games to go. I'd be surprised if he makes it, but having sat here for the last 2 seasons, when he kind of in the springtime, both occasions sitting on 14 and managed to manage himself very, very carefully, yeah, perhaps he will get across the line. But I'd be surprised if we get to that cutoff point and he hasn't missed a game.
I mean, you got to say he's done well. He's done well to get
Well, yeah,
this
because he
far.
got
Four bookings in 14 games actually isn't that crazy, is it?
Yeah, and the first 4 must have come in the first 6, 7 games of the
Yeah.
season, and since then, yet again, like we've seen in the last couple of years, he has this incredible ability of sort of talking the referee round and being more disciplined. And I think having someone like Kiyust, who's perhaps a little bit more mobile than Calvin Phillips alongside him, does help on occasion. Kiyust is so strong; he's so good at using his body to kind of spin the ball and look to start moving things up the pitch. So perhaps having him alongside him does make things a little bit easier. He knows he's got that kind of bit quicker and a bit more mobile cover next to him.
Just before we reach the half time of this game, this was our best chance of the first half, wasn't it? I mean, we didn't have many. Face it, in the 45th minute, Harry Clark gets a glancing header onto an in-swing corner from Davis. Davis went for that one a few times, that low flat one. Wes Burns used to make that run quite a lot, but it was Clark that got the touch, and it's going in, and Henderson just sort of reaction save, just get anything in front of it, and he kind of saves it with his thighs, doesn't he? Which is a little bit unorthodox, but a good save from him. But I suppose you could say good to see us threatening from a set piece. But if we'd have nicked a goal before half time, you'd have said that was a little bit of a robbery, wouldn't you? Not that Palace were particularly ambitious attacking wise in the first half either, but yeah, 1-0 definitely would have flattered us, wouldn't it?
It would have done, yeah. A draw at halftime would have been the fair result. It's so close in, isn't it? Like you say, Davis whips it near post. Clark gets something on it, but it's so close. It just hits Henderson, and he's in the right place to make the save. But yeah, I think even the most blue-tinted Ipswich Town fan would have struggled to admit we deserved to be ahead at halftime. I just thought it was a really poor half. The Eze kind of effort for them, which Burns took the sting out of, and the Clark header at the end were the only 2 real kind of moments where you had any kind of a sniff of a goal. And at halftime, the draw was fair, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then you just hope that McKenna has another one of his halftime masterclasses. And we come out at the start of the second half, and Decore, as we mentioned, has gone off. Jefferson Lerma comes on for him. That's kind of a like for like central midfield substitution for Palace. And we have quite a good move. Burns gets down the right. He has a shot blocked by Mitchell, probably one block of about 15 from Burns crosses, but then with the rebound, Burns manages to whip it across. Liam Delap gets across his man. I think Davis is potentially coming in behind him, but Delap goes for the header himself. Easy one for Henderson. That Lacroix and Hughes both get booked. Lacroix's one was quite bad actually, but Will Hughes possibly a little bit unlucky to be booked when you consider some of the other fouls that had been let go. But on 59 minutes, Seb, the plan has worked for Palace, hasn't it? Because they're letting us come onto them a little bit to open up spaces, and they hit us with a really good counter-attack. Really poor from our perspective defensively, but a world-class finish from Mateta.
It was a great finish, yes. Obviously, we're down the other end. Liam Delap's doing his normal. He's making himself all arms, all legs, cuts him, gets a shot off, which kind of deflects, and it breaks up pitch. And Eze puts a through ball through, and you've got Mateta going through, and that's where you need. Greaves just has to be stronger, doesn't he? He has to be stronger up against him. I know we've discussed the physical nature of Mateta and how powerful he is and how he's going. It's a lovely dinked finish over Muric. I've seen some criticism of Muric saying, why did he come out and kind of force Mateta's hand to make that dinked finish? But for me, Greaves has to be stronger there. You've got to go through and win the ball, or a shoulder to shoulder barge. But he's just, I don't know if he stumbles or if he's just bounces off Mateta, or
yeah, I think he loses his balance a little bit there, doesn't he? And then slips, and then Mateta's away. Mateta's not absolutely rapid, but he's got that power to just pull away from you there. And Greaves was stuck in the mud a little bit. Clark tries to get back, doesn't he, and sort of slide in. He possibly would have taken a red card there if he'd have made contacts. And like you say, Muric, I don't think you can criticise him for coming out there, because Mateta's on his left foot as well. You're just saying, go on then. If you can beat me with a left foot dink on your weaker foot, then fair play. But unfortunately, that's exactly what he did. But yeah, as Rob Holmes, this is what this is the thing. This is the Premier League. It was fantastic footwork from Mateta. We were waxing lyrical about Liam Delap when he stood up Diego Carlos against Aston Villa. Did something quite similar. Step over, left him for dead. Mateta's done that to Greaves tonight. But yeah, maybe you feel that a fully fit Greaves from earlier on in the season might not have let that happen to him, Seb.
Yeah, potentially. Or Burgess, Burgess, we know how good he is against physical opponents. If he's the one who's one-on-one, maybe you expect a slightly stronger challenge. And yeah, at that point, that's the worst case scenario, isn't it? Because Palace have they've not overly pressed you when your keeper's been in possession. They're happy for you to come onto them. They're absorbing the pressure and they're looking to hit you on the break. And all of a sudden now you're the ones that have got to take the game to them even more, which means there's going to be more space in behind. And their game plan has just worked to an absolute treat. And the atmosphere kind of went flat. It wasn't it was a very cold night. I think it was like 3 degrees or so there. So that'll play a part. I'm sure at some point Rich will jump in here and give us the opinion from inside the ground. But I thought it was a very flat kind of atmosphere performance. I could hear the Palace fans more than the Ipswich fans, which is very rare given how electric Portman Road's been under the lights. And I understand the players on the pitch, have a responsibility to kind of drive the fans on. But at that point, I think all of us kind of thought, oh, that's a really bad goal to concede at a bad time, because you're not going to have to take the game to them, create more space. And we were also, I thought, looking tired. I know Delap played the 90 minutes against Forest. He was looking like he was starting to tire a little bit. Kayus, we know, can't seem to do more than 65 minutes or so. He's being managed, isn't he, with this foot problem that meant he didn't go away with Sweden. Jack Clark had kind of, in the first half, he'd been, taking his man on, but the last minute, the decision making, when to shoot, when to release the ball, when to make the pass, he was kind of drifting in and out of the game. So you expected the substitutions to come fairly quickly after the goal. But I just thought, yeah, some of our better players, our key players across the season, like Kayus, like Delap, were really starting to look tired.
Yeah, so the substitutions came on just a few minutes after the goal, wasn't it? And yeah, as you say, Chaplin comes on. That one was probably planned. Taylor comes on as well, and Nathan Broadhead. A difficult night for all of those. Well, Kayusti had a reasonable game. A difficult night for Jack Clark and a difficult night for Wes Burns in those attacking wide roles. Good to see Nathan Broadhead out on the pitch, Seb. It's taken him a long time to get on the pitch. I think there was a game earlier this season where he was about to come on and then we immediately scored. I think it might have been Brentford away. And yeah, he hasn't made... Well, he was injured for a lot of the start of the season. He doesn't always make the matchday squad, but he's going to be important for us over Christmas. And he looked pretty lively when he came on.
He did, yeah, I agree with that. He was the major plus point, I thought, from Saturday as well. He looked sharp when he came on at the City ground, and you know what you're going to get from him. He's not going to sprint past a man, but he's so good and technically with the ball at his feet. He's got that ability to chop inside and kind of beat a man that way. And really happy to see him get on the pitch. The one time he did kind of drop his shoulder and go down the line, I gave a throw in, but I'm not sure that ball was out of throw.
He took a bad touch, and it looked like the ball was going out, but it was one of those where it looked like it was going out, but then he just about saves it, and the linesman, I think, had already made his decision that he was going to flag there for a throw into Crystal Palace. Really frustrating. That kind of took the wind out of the sails again. 67th minute, Mateta gets in behind again. Good save from Juric. We finally clip the ball in behind for Davis on the 70th minute, and he puts a fantastic ball across for Liam Delap, but it's ever so slightly behind him. Maybe Delap just running in with slightly too much pace there. We get a corner from it though. Greaves picks up a yellow card. Al Hamidi then comes on in the 80th minute. And I don't know about you, Seb. I don't love seeing Ali Al Hamidi come on in that centre forward role. I wondered whether Smodics might be the guy that comes on for Delap tonight. Was it a bit of a weird one for you that he was on the bench but didn't come on?
I was surprised he wasn't used. Yeah, I assumed he was going to be the Delap replacement because he's going to run all day for you. He's played through the middle so many times before. He's a goal scorer, and I was surprised he didn't get the nod. But I have to say, to be fair to Al Hamidi, I think that's probably the best cameo we've had of him so far this season. Yeah. He looks completely different in the Man United game. I was sat there thinking he just didn't look fit because he couldn't sprint. But the first thing he did tonight was kind of beat his man and sprint down the left-hand channel, and he was putting himself about, and I thought he looked decent. But I still think I expect us to sign a striker in the January window, and he will probably go out on loan, as was the plan towards the end of the summer window. But it's what we've got for now. But it was surprising that Smodic didn't get that nod, because he's more experienced than Al Hamadi. He's scored goals in the Premier League. He's not as physical as Liam Delap, but he'll run all day and chase things down. So a bit strange to see him not used at all. I presumed when Broadhead, Chaplin, etc. came on, then Smodic would go through the middle at some point, but for whatever reason, he just decided he wasn't for tonight.
Yeah, and I'll second that. I thought Al Hamadi, he surprised me. He was really good. Looked like he was up to the pace of the game immediately, and looked lively. And again, could be crucial in the next few weeks before January, where, as you say, hopefully he'll get a championship loan. Amari Hutchinson, 83rd minute, he's out on the right now. Twists and turns, takes the ball down the outside, whips it's sort of a cross shot across the face of goal. It's one of those that from the main TV angle looks pretty close, but then when you see a couple of replays, it's actually way wide. But Broadhead wins a free kick, probably 30 yards out from the Crystal Palace goal in the 86th minute. And Broadhead takes the ball, and you can tell he's desperate to try and replicate that free kick against Sheffield Wednesday from a few seasons ago. He's standing over it, but they're saying, no, we've got this routine here. You can see Chaplin's involved, and you know that they've got something planned here, which is good to see, especially like late on in a game, seeing us actually come up with a planned free kick and try and execute it. And to be fair, they do a pretty good job of this free kick, where eventually, the ball's played into Chaplin, and it looks like it goes dead, but then Chaplin dinks a lovely ball to the back post. Greaves heads the ball back across the face, and it looks like it might get all the way through to Broadhead, but I think Henderson just about gets a touch, which deflects it onto the post, and then comes off Broadhead and wide. But a good little move, that, Seb, and we'd have been very happy with a point had we got one from that.
Fine margins, isn't it? Yeah, you think for all the will in the world, Broadhead's going to have an effort. Davis chips it in, good header from Greaves downwards. And if I couldn't tell on at the time, but if Henderson does get a touch on that, then he's done brilliantly. I think, let's be honest, tip it onto the post, and Broadhead is running in, and you think he's simply going to tap it home, but that touch that puts it onto the post means it ricochets back and hits him and goes out. And those fine margins are what the Premier League level is all about, isn't it? You're coming up against goalkeepers who can make that kind of minuscule touch that results in a goal kick. And I saw Henderson's celebration. He almost celebrated that like a goal, didn't he? When it was cleared from behind, realizing
he wanted to make sure everyone knew it was a save. But I imagine if it hadn't have hit Broadhead, he probably wouldn't have even reacted, would he? He'd have pretended he didn't even get a touch on it, right?
Yeah, potentially. But it's the frustrating, the fine margins that we find ourselves in. And at that point, I was kind of resigned, thinking it's simply not going to be our night.
Yeah, it wasn't our night, was it? And when the board goes up and it's only 3 minutes.
Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it? How was it only 3 minutes? You've had, 8 subs or so? You've had a goal. Okay, not too much happened, but, there were free kicks here and there. To only have 3 minutes seemed farcical. And then to only play, 2 minutes of it maybe with the ball in play? One of the Palace players went down, and, strange end to the game. But, we can't sit here and blame that for the performance. It was a flat performance, a really damaging result. Leicester apparently are 3-0 up now against West Ham, so potentially they're going to move further ahead. Maybe Lopetegui now gets sacked by West Ham, and they're slowly being dragged back into it. But it's been a poor night, let's be honest.
It has been a poor night, but just because it's been a poor night doesn't mean that we shouldn't hear from our sponsors, Seb. So here we are. Here's the little read that I did for Atwell's. Blue Monday is proudly brought to you in partnership with our friends at Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for work on property or business law. Their client care has repeatedly been recognised as outstanding, and they are people-focused with a plain English approach which sets them apart. They have offices in Ipswich, Colchester and London, and to find out more, head to atwells.com. Yeah, thank you very much to Atwells for your continued support this season and one-stop badges at all. And let's do a couple of plugs here. My Premier League predictions, which I did with Ben, it's already going terribly, Seb. I predicted Ipswich to win. I think Ben possibly went for the draw. He might have gone for an Ipswich win as well for the Palace game. And I'm fairly sure I went for Leicester to draw against West Ham, which is looking unlikely, but there's plenty of matches left to go. This is a double prediction show, so even after this match week is out of the way, check it out, guys, and you can see just how bad Ben and I are at predicting these Premier League results. But yeah, but the good thing about tonight, Seb, is that we've only got a few more days for the next game. Normally this season, we've had to wait for 2 weeks after an international break, or at least wait another week for another game after a defeat. We've got the Bournemouth game coming up on Sunday, and you're doing a pre-match live show on Thursday night at 8 p.m, digging into the cherries.
Yeah, back in the normal slot, 8 p.m. on Thursday night. Me and Rich, if he turns up, but he's not overly happy with the way the FPL feature's going. So I presume he will join me at 8 p.m. I hope he will. And we'll discuss Bournemouth, which is probably now, can you say must win in December? Game 14 of the season, will it be 15 of the season? Can we say must win given what's to come with Newcastle, Arsenal and Chelsea? Join us on Thursday night as we debate all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we've already called a couple of games must win, haven't we? And we haven't won any of the must win ones yet. So maybe we'll pick up another win in one of the ones that we don't have to win, Seb, and that will mean that we'll have other must win games in the future. And then after that must win game against Bournemouth, we'll have the usual flagship show live on Sunday night with Ben, Dave, and Joe, I imagine. Yeah, they'll be talking about that uplifting victory, and everyone will have forgotten about the Crystal Palace game. Ali Al-Hamadi would have scored a hat-trick against Bournemouth, and everything will be fine. So normally we talk about other results at this stage, Seb, but there's only one other game at the moment. And did you say it was Leicester 3, West Ham 0?
Apparently in the chat, someone's put that the third goal has been ruled out by VAR. So I think it may only be 2-0 to Leicester, but it must be 80 minutes now, 85 minutes or so, I'm guessing. So not long in that one. It looks like the Ruud Van Nistelrooy era is up and running.
Could have done without that. Here's the first question, Seb. Good luck with this one. How will we turn it around?
Well, yeah, we have to find a way to kind of compete against these sides in this mini league that we're involved in. You know, Southampton, Wolves in a couple of weeks' time. Bournemouth aren't involved in it, but they are kind of just about within, not touching distance, but they are kind of closer to us. And the bigger sides that we seem to raise our games for, you know, the Man Uniteds, the Spurs, Aston Villa at home, we do kind of turn up for those ones. But we've got to find a way to maybe sides that come at us less and are happy to, a bit like Palace tonight, you know, kind of sit back, wait for us to come at them and then hit us on the counter. We need reinforcements. I think that's pretty obvious. The George Hurst injury hasn't helped in the slightest. We need bodies to arrive in the building in January. I expect a striker to join. We may well get a right back now with Twanzebe being out. But equally, guys, you know, there's been a lot of negativity I've seen on social media and stuff tonight. And yes, it is about turning it around and arresting the slump of form. But at the same time, you know, these players have given us incredible moments for the last two and a half, certainly the last 2 years, haven't they? And, you know, we've got Wes Burns, Connor Chaplin, Nathan Broadhead, Sam Morsey, Harry Clark, you know, all those guys were involved in the League One and the Championship kind of promotions. And we do have to remember we've moved forward incredibly quickly as a club. And sometimes this is the inevitable consequence of it. You know, we can't go into the Premier League, spend 300 million, attract £70,000 a week players and hit the ground running and be on 20 points at this stage. That's not going to happen. We're going to have to scrap. We are going to have to get some more people in January. And if we do go down, I still think we'll be okay. That thought has been tested a little bit today. But if we still go down, we will have the basis of an excellent squad to bounce back, and we will be stronger for it in the future. So yes, everything does seem very doom and gloom at the moment off the result of a poor performance, a flat atmosphere, and a really bad result. But let's just have a little bit of perspective. Remember, firstly, where we've been for the last 2 years. Secondly, the memories these players have given us. And thirdly, you know, they are trying their absolute hardest. We have an incredibly impressive young manager. And if we can get the right people in January, then potentially maybe we can look to develop. And we know from the last 2 seasons, we've become much better in the second half of the season. You know, Bristol Rovers away 2023 February Valentine's night, we win 14 out of the next 15 games. Last season we were in a bad run of form over the winter period. Was it Millwall away on Valentine's Day this time, a 4-0 win, and we won 8 or 9 games on the spin? Was it 9 out of 10 games we won, apart from the Cardiff effort? So yeah, we know we're a side that gets better as the season goes on. We'd have a lot of upheaval in the summer. We had players who weren't even in the building until a couple of games had been played in the league. So things are going to take time, but a bit of perspective, I think, maybe around some of the negativity tonight.
Yeah, and so kind of what you're saying is go and get Kiefer Moore.
yeah. Go and get Kiefer Moore, Jeremy Sarmiento, and it'll all be okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks to everyone that's got their comments in, and there are some questions as well. But yeah, if you can get some get your questions in for Seb and I, and we'll try and make some sense of this disappointing night tonight. Triple O says today definitely wasn't a good game for us. Jack Clark, Harry Clark, Greaves, and Burns all struggled, but it just highlights the gap in quality and how thin our squad is. I mean, that kind of chimes with exactly what you've just said, Seb, and it's gonna show up a lot more at this level, isn't it? When you're playing against teams that Palace, not particularly high in confidence, but they came there with a game plan and they look confident and assured. Most of these players have been there and done it for years in the Premier League, and we're still finding our feet, aren't we?
Yeah, and I said it about Forest at the weekend. Forest are in, their third season up here? Palace have been up here for 10, 11 years now, haven't they? And, you can therefore go and get the likes of Mark Gahey, Trevor Chalobah on loan, Mateta up front, Eze from a QPR. You can do that. You can drip feed some players in if you need to develop them. And you can, you have that competitive advantage over all the sides that kind of come up and join you. And let's not forget, it was only the back end of last season. They won 6 out of 7 games, was it, when Glasner first took over? And they would have had eyes on being probably pushing for the top 10 this season, I think. So yeah, they're a decent side. And we have to, we have to remember where we've been, and the squad is looking a bit thin. The injury to Twanzebe is a huge blow. The injury to Hurst is a blow because you lose that kind of like for like swap out with Delap at 70 minutes. And yeah, we've still got a few weeks to go. Jack Clark is playing a new role. To be fair to him, at Sunderland, we heard from various people in the summer he was a kind of chalk on his boots kind of player, like Dave said on the Flagship last week. Love to cut inside and get onto his right foot. He's learning a new role. Harry Clark, Greaves, Burns, it's all their first kind of experience at this level. And sometimes against a side like Palace, who have that ability to go and spend big and develop players, that's what you get.
Steve Catchpole, do you see anyone as good or better than what we already have coming in the transfer window? January's difficult, but I think we've got to try and go out and get players, haven't we? And we have brought in good players in January and in the last couple of seasons as well, haven't we?
Well, the January windows have been crucial the last 2 years, haven't we? We tooled up for the Championship when we were in League One with Harry Clark and Broadhead, and to a lesser degree, I guess, Luongo joining us. And then last season, obviously, the likes of Sarmiento, Kiefer Moore, Ali Al-Hamadi to get us across the line. So we know they'll have been working on things for weeks now. Even before George Hurst's injury, we know they would have gone for another striker because they were so close to getting Armando Broja on deadline day, and potentially Reece Nelson as well. So we know there's FFP headroom to play with. They will have the data, they will have their targets in mind, and I assume we will probably look to move quite quickly once that window is open to get targets in. And they haven't let us down for the last 2 windows in January, so fingers crossed we can get the caliber of players in that kind of hit the ground running and just give us that little bit of a lift, which I think we need at the moment.
And how many numbers do you think it will be? Do you think it's 2, 3, 4, 5?
I think 3 or 4 potentially. I think you're looking at a striker. I think depending on Twanzebe, if he's out for a couple of months, you might look to get by with Johnson and Clark. If he's out for longer term, if he's out for kind of a 4 to 5 months, if it's surgery required, if it's a bad tear, you might look at getting a right back in there as well. I expect us to get a right winger to replace Ogbene, obviously who's out for the season. So there's 3 straight away, and then you might just see what else comes available.
Right, Seb, we need cheering up, don't we? Let's speak to our mate Rich Woodward. Rich, how are you doing?
You want me to cheer you up, do you?
First of all, is that the one from Aaron Cresswell's volley against Palace in?
I was trying to harness the power of Cresswell, and it failed.
Doesn't always work, does it?
No, because I haven't seen us win in the home shirt yet, so I'm doing my absolute best, guys. It's not enough. Really flat atmosphere. I don't know whether you put that down to a sense of foreboding about the game. This is, you kind of expect maybe to lose to Man United, maybe even away at Forest. But these are the kind of games that you want to win. And I think maybe Portman Road was thinking more about the consequences of losing than maybe the consequences of winning, and so the atmosphere just wasn't there tonight. And yeah, we huffed and puffed, didn't we? But just don't create meaningful chances, or if we do, we don't convert them. And you just can't not convert chances at this level. You can't, any possible opening just has to be snatched. We have to be really ruthless about it, and we're just not scoring the goals. And it's a I wouldn't say it's a worry, but yeah, these are the kind of games that we need to be winning if we're going to have any chance. And so there's a little bit of frustration there tonight, guys. I don't know how you feel about it, but yeah, I don't think we've been outplayed. I just think we've been managed like Forest did. It was a very similar game to Forest for me. This live stream could have started 10 minutes later, as far as I'm concerned. How Craig Pawson has managed to find 3 minutes of injury time when there was about 10 minutes of wasted time throughout the game that he has acknowledged. He's looked at Dean Henderson a few times. 3 minutes is just a farce. It doesn't put the ball in the net, but it gives us more time. So yeah, all in all, I'm a bit frustrated, guys. I'm sorry I've not lifted the mood, but I suspect I haven't said anything that you haven't already said.
No, we definitely covered the 3 minutes thing. That was incredibly frustrating. That was like the old UEFA tournaments where it didn't matter what happened in the second half, you'd always just get the 3 minutes coming up. But yeah, worrying that obviously the lack of goals is worrying. And then from the crowd perspective, we really need to make Portman Road a difficult place to come. Yeah. And if everyone falls back into the habit of just expecting us to play well and then complaining when we don't, it's going to be difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there was a few around me who felt similar that I did, that, there were groans on Saturday when Muric was slow playing the ball out. The reason he's slow playing the ball out is either because he's been told to be slow getting the ball out, or because the options to get the ball out are not there and are getting into position. But Portman Road was getting frustrated about that tonight. There was groans when we didn't make the right pass, or we made a silly mistake. And I just kind of felt like it's kind of like how I feel about my nieces. If they slip over, if they scratch one of my, prized possessions, I can't be angry at them because they're small little people. And we've got League One players trying to play Premier League level football, and mistakes are going to happen. And I think Portman Road, I don't know where this, Mikey, maybe the sense of false expectation that we were going to waltz to survive, or maybe even waltz to mid-table. I don't know where that came from. It's understandable. We've had 2 years of just unparalleled success, haven't we? Compared to the previous 13 or even 22. But I think we just need to be more patient. That being said, the quality, we just need to be really much quicker, much more incisive with our play. And maybe that changes the mood. If people are slow at getting the ball out, I can understand the frustration to an extent. But yeah, I don't know what it is, Mikey. I don't know how you change it, really, because there's not much you can bring off the bench. Fair play, Ali Al-Hamadi, by the way.
Yeah, we gave...
What a Lazarus-like recovery that was from this cameo at United, where you thought, blimey, he can't run. To tonight, where he's created a couple of moments, hasn't he? And that gives a little bit more hope. Smodic has had a whole night off. That's a positive. Jack Clark, I thought, had his best game in a Town shirt lot tonight. That's a positive. Both of you not really happy with that? Both of you give it a little bit grimace.
I'm surprised you said it was his best. I thought he did well in the first half, kind of taking his man on, winning the ball and getting us up the pitch. But then I thought his decision-making in the final third, when to try and get a shot off, when to try and release the pass, I thought that let him down. Okay. I thought Kiyusta was our best player tonight. Yeah, he looks at times. He looks levels above. He's so good, able to kind of use his body to kind of have the ball come across him and look to start things. And yeah, if we can, hopefully, these obviously it's all pre-planned with the 65-minute subs. If we can start getting 85 minutes out of him in central midfield, I think that'll make a big difference, because yeah, he is quite clearly levels above the rest of the squad at times, I would say.
Fair enough. I think we got into positions tonight to do more damage to Palace, and. Typically we wanted an extra touch, or we wanted an extra yard, or a moment's thinking time. There was a really good passage where 1 minute Wes Burns gets the ball down the right-hand side, takes a pause, gets the cross in, hits the defender, compared to the other side where Leif Davis just got it straight in. I think that might have been the Delap glancing header that maybe he should have done better for. And I think that's the kind of stuff that I think people can understandably be frustrated about. They're going sideways around the 18-yard box is starting to get a little bit frustrating. I'm quite happy if players want to, if Morsey had a shot, I think that, went high into the North Stand or what have you. I'm actually okay with that kind of stuff because we're not going to break down teams like Palace or Forest with at least the resources that we presently have available to us. So just having a ping, we brought Jack Taylor on, just have a shot. You know what I mean? It sounds a bit reductive and a little bit simplistic, but any way that we can score a goal, I think we should be doing it. And at the moment, we're maybe a little bit overplaying perhaps, but that's what's got us our success. And that's why it's such a frustrating situation, guys, because I can say Wes Burns should get his cross in earlier. I can say Jack Clark should cut and have a shot. This is tough. It's a tough level, and we've had to evolve really quickly. So I don't know where we stand. I think probably the biggest feeling for me is just more questions than answers at the moment. And as you guys, I think I arrived when you were talking about the window. We really need to get to January and just hang in there, and we desperately need reinforcements because, the players that stand out at the moment are the ones who have got that top level quality, and that's the difference. We just need more of that.
Rob Holmes, sorry. How hard do you think it will be to attract a decent striker in the window if we're in the bottom three come January? I think we'll be looking at players that are going to be in lower leagues than Ipswich, right? So the Championship or maybe some of the lesser leagues around Europe. That's where we'll be fishing, isn't it, Seb? So
and the Premier League is still
too difficult.
No, the Premier League is still the place to be, isn't it? You'll look at a side, even if we are in the bottom three, even if we're 4 or 5 points adrift, maybe people will still want to come into the Premier League with the exposure that it's got, the wages that we'll probably be able to offer, and it will still be a very attractive proposition. The guy in the dugout is going to be a major selling point for players who want to come and develop their own game. We've seen what Kieran McKenna can do with players. He's clearly a huge selling point. They want to come and be part of this journey. So I think, given the kind of players we will be targeting, I don't think it'll be that different if we were 17th, 3 points clear, or 19th, 3 points adrift. That's slightly the wrong side of the line. I think the targets they will go for will be well thought through, as they always are. And those kind of issues, I don't think are really gonna be an issue, considering the kind of players we'll go for.
Mark Markson, which 3 teams are worse than us? Leicester look good tonight, but could be new manager bounce. Again, like tonight, it doesn't feel like there are 3 teams that are worse than us, does there, Rich? But then after the Manchester United game, you'd say, we're a better side than West Ham. We're a better side than, we are a better side than Southampton. And then we look a better side than Everton a lot of the times this season. But then they absolutely scored us at Portman Road. And we've looked better than West Ham at times this season. But they absolutely scored us at their place, as I've already mentioned. And it's over the course of the season, isn't it? But I think we have the potential to be better than those teams that I mentioned. But on the evidence of tonight, it's difficult to say that we'll finish above 3 other teams, isn't it?
Yes, Mikey, and no. I'm trying to find some glimmers of hope. As I say on the pre-match show, you're telling me there's a chance. On paper, squad depth-wise, I agree with your point, Mikey, and Mark, to Mark's question. Let's be honest, there are still a lot of League One players in this squad, some of which have made the step up, and some I don't think are going to do that, sadly. That we've talked about this routinely on Blue Monday, that there's going to be some heartache when certain players, I think, just don't find their way into the squad. Maybe they have a part if the worst were to happen next season, but we have to evolve. But I think the difference between us compared to other teams, I think we're better coached. I think we have better fundamentals. I haven't, apart from the games where you'd expect us, West Ham game is probably the only one, is a game where you felt like we were just poor, and against a team that we should be more competitive against. There's been times in every single game in the last few weeks where we've been in matches. The Man United game, we were really on a high after that one. Not a huge amount has changed. We've lost a couple of games, of course. The other thing that I wanted to draw attention to, and it's something that we occasionally, every week, Seb and I are providing a little bit of fan insight on the BBC Sport website. and we need to rewind back to when McKenna came in post Paul Cook. Of course, we were winning matches because we were a big fish in a small pond. But the first thing that McKenna did was made us hard to beat and kind of reduce the goals against. We are losing games. No one wants to lose games, but we're not being pumped by anyone. We're in these matches. It's just that it takes one moment of quality like it did for Mateta tonight, or one brain fart or a couple of brain farts like it did at Forest. We are in these matches. Our collective understanding of the level improves every single week. I think we are the team who is down there struggling that has the highest potentially. If things were to come together, reinforcements come in, players get back fit, that could go on that run that gets us out of danger. But that's all hypothetical. It's going to be tough. I think people are starting to wake up to that fact. But I think we've got it in us, Mikey, to go on a run. Once McKenna's figured it out, we trust the manager, right? We trust the process. Yeah. We said that. Nothing's changed. It's just a bit more reality is setting in a little bit, isn't it? That was a long answer to that question, but thank you, Mark.
It was a nice answer, though, and I'm glad to hear that you're still feeling so positive about it, Rich, because I still believe that Kieran McKenna can turn this around and get us winning football matches.
And sorry, the key, once you've figured out how to be more defensively solid, the next step is to find a way to score goals. That is the problem right now, isn't it? If we'd won tonight 2-1, this is a redundant conversation, and that's the problem. But we did create those chances, needed to score them, but I trust the process that will come. And by the time we get, we're 4 weeks away from the January window, reinforcements will come.
They'll come. Seb, a question about Amari Hutchinson here from LJ. Even if central 10 is his best position, surely we need to keep Hutchinson wide for now with the injuries. Burns has had a lot of minutes this year and looks off the level in LJ's opinion. Yeah, he's definitely looking low on confidence, Wes Burns. Would you give Hutchinson a run out wide right in the absence of Ogbene?
Well, I'd also mention Ben Johnson, obviously, who played that role at Spurs and played it really, really well. And I guess if you're talking about the need to tighten up a little bit, maybe he provides that little bit more defensive kind of strength in front of Harry Clarke. We know Twanzebe isn't going to be around for the foreseeable. So does having Ben Johnson slightly in front of Harry Clarke kind of tighten up that right-hand side? Maybe. We've already discussed Wes Burns earlier in the show. Hutchinson seems to be, when he gets a bit more time and space on the right hand side, he can start to look to take his man on. We've seen it in the last couple of games, those minutes where he kind of drops his shoulder, goes past a man to the byline. On Saturday he got a shot off that Sells spilled into the middle. He did it tonight for that one that he kind of then put out for a put a bit of power and then put it straight across the bar. But yeah, I'd have no issue if he's the number the 7, so we call it the wide right role on Saturday if Johnson's not up to it. But then you've got what you can do in the middle. Connor Chaplin, I love Connor Chaplin to bits, but
Nathan Broadhead.
Has he ever played as a 10 for us though?
I think he could.
I presume he put Schmodic in the 10 logically and have Broadhead out wide left. Yeah.
As underscore Booth has said in the chat, that Ogbene injury really has not helped us at all, has it? We talk about luck and all that kind of stuff, but to lose Twanzebe now twice and Ogbene for the whole season, we really we need every hope we can get, every chance we can get, and those injuries have just been cruel, haven't they?
Really cruel, really, really cruel. And yeah, I think I saw a graphic the other day that said that we've had like the second worst injuries so far this season in terms of the quantity of injuries to our players. And yeah, we need to be at full strength to be able to compete at this level. Michael Warner asked if Broadhead's maybe got a chance from the start to try and create some more chances for our forwards. I think he's probably got a chance. He's got definitely in with a shout of being in the team for that Bournemouth game. But you think maybe with Smodics not playing tonight, there's a good chance that Smodics comes back in that left-sided forward position, right?
Yeah, I think you're right there. And to the previous conversation about Hutchinson's a threat in the 10 or out wide on the right. To Seb's point, there's no issue in being either. I don't think we're weakened by him as long as he's on the pitch at the moment. Even in the middle, I know people would like to see him down the right, but even in the middle tonight, he finds those pockets, he turns quickly and gets away from their back line, doesn't he? So I would love to see Broadhead start. Again, injected a little bit of urgency and purpose about us. Maybe the ball didn't drop in the moments that as many of those moments as we want for him. But if that ball across the face of goal goes in, then that's a great headline for him, isn't it? I suspect you're right though, Mikey. I think full strength, the expected 11 will be, Amari, Burns, and Schmoditz. I don't know why I did them in that order, but you can put the jigsaw together, can't you?
Yeah, I always like hearing Ipswich players in the same breath as players like Thierry Henry. So I'm going to read this one out from Procrastinating Womble. Thierry Henry said he conserves his energy to be sharp to finish. Are we overrunning Delap, Seb? I think he's a completely different style of centre forward, isn't he? And you look like Luis Suarez was an elite striker, and he worked his socks off, didn't he? Maybe a more fair comparison.
We don't really have a choice either, do we? Because he's so, crucial to the way we play. We know he's going to leave everything out there for the first 65, 70 minutes. He's either going to have to play slightly more restrained if he's going to do the full 90, a bit like we saw him at Forest, or if he does put in those levels of chasing down, being strong, holding the ball up, then it comes to the consequence, and you're going to have to accept that 70 minutes his race is run, and you're going to have to turn towards the bench for other options. I don't think we have a choice to make him. You don't want to change the way he plays. You want him with that edge, with that hustle and bustle. He's always going to put one on a defender at some point in the match. You want that natural aggression because it's hard. It's a hard thing to coach. So I think we are overrunning him, but we have no choice. We have to, and it's his game.
Just going to try and find a few more questions here. I think this one might be a joke. Blogger 101, can Town turn down a massive bid for Delap? I live in Spain, and Marca reporting that Real Madrid are in the process of formulating a multi-million euro deal for Delap. I just looked that one up. I can't find any evidence of this, but how big does this bid have to be for Liam Delap in January? Because a couple of people have asked, do we end up selling him in January, Rich? I think it's a flat no, isn't it? But
I mean, it's game over if we do that. Let's be honest, because we're not going to replace him like
60
for like.
million, Rich? 60 million?
I don't. Well, no. How much is Survival worth? Like 150?
Yeah.
I'd be shocked. Shocked if someone. Well, no, I wouldn't be shocked at the moment, would I? I mean, as an aside, it's now been a few games without a goal for Liam Delap. Still impactful, still getting on the end of stuff. But we forget how young he is, how raw he is. He's set the world alight. Brilliant that he's playing for us. But this lean patch is going to be a really interesting insight into his abilities, isn't it? And his, psychology as well about how he goes to it. He hasn't changed the way he's played. I think to Seb's point, maybe isn't as intense with the running and the chasing down. Still does a little bit of that, but maybe a little bit more conservative, which I think is helpful for us. But yeah, I don't think any bid is going to be enough in January, Mikey, for us to want to get rid of him at that point. We just can't replace him with enough. There's not going to be a £60 million striker that wants to sign for us in return. Let's put it that way.
No, you're probably quite right there. Good question. This I joked about getting Keeper Moore back, Seb. That's not going to happen. But in hindsight, should we have offered Keeper Moore a contract? Because the problem is that we thought we were going to get another higher caliber striker in, didn't we? And then it didn't happen at the end of the window. And by then, Keeper Moore's already found a new club and a new deal. Maybe what we would have offered Moore isn't what he wants at this stage of his career as well. But in hindsight, would have been useful to have that big physical presence coming off the bench and a good backup option for Delap when George Hurst is injured.
It would have been, but hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Going into the early days of the window when he moved quite quickly to Sheffield United, didn't he? Was it a couple of million quid? So you look at the fee and you think, yes, could he have come and would he have been happy to sit on our bench and play 20, 25 minutes a game to replace Liam Delap? Probably not, given he's 31, 32 and was leaving Bournemouth because he wanted to play football. But hindsight's a wonderful thing. Yeah, if you had if you're Kiefer Moore coming off your bench to kind of rough up defenders after Delap's battered them for the first 70 minutes, then potentially we'd have a couple more points on the board. But given where we were, given where he was, it's all hindsight, isn't it?
Yeah. David Sanderson says one player came from outside the UK coming into this season. That's Jens Kajusti. He played in the Champions League, hasn't he? Do you think that's maybe where we should be looking for some of these players, Rich? Just tapping into that international market again?
Yeah, your mate Jens. We obviously our dossier was leaked, wasn't it, in the summer? And I think we have generally a style of player with the academy grounding that we want and all that kind of stuff. But I think we are going to have to shop a little bit smarter in the window. And, it's been a while since we've had a Dutch legend, a Dutch cult hero. Maybe we should be shopping there, Mikey. But yeah, other clubs at our level and even the championship below, are shopping in European markets. I'd be surprised if we aren't doing that ourselves. We've obviously underinvested in scouting for a long old time, so it takes time to reestablish. But yeah, it's a good shout from David. That.
Excellent. I think we'll finish it there, guys. You're both going to be back on Thursday night, as we mentioned, to talk about AFC Bournemouth at home. Just reflecting on this Crystal Palace defeat, it doesn't feel great, does it? But how many times in the last couple of years have we followed a bad performance and a bad result with something really positive? So 3 points on Saturday, Rich and Seb.
I think we didn't show the working for we did our next 6 predictions on Sunday. I had a sense of foreboding about tonight, as I think a few people in Portman Road by the way that the atmosphere kind of felt. But I did think we might get something out of Bournemouth because I think it's a football match. And I kind of think about Villa at home, to a lesser extent, Man United at home, Fulham at home. These are the games where we've turned up. And I think our physical stature, or maybe lack thereof, hasn't come back to haunt us. And I think Bournemouth are a really tricky team. Let's not underestimate them. As much as I haven't got a huge amount of time for them as a football club, they are really well established. They've got a great coach and really attack their opposition. But that might really work for us. So I'm hopeful. I'm just hopeful of a better occasion, Mikey. We just need to get that home win, however it happens. We're doing our best, by the way, to keep you here so that you don't have to face your other half, by the way, in case folk are arrived late and aren't aware that Mikey's household is split on tonight's result. So we'll keep you here as long as we can, Mikey. But yeah, join us on Thursday night. Seb and I will do our usual analysis and take you through all the key things you need to know. But yeah, it would be good if we turn up on Sunday, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And are we going to do it, Seb?
To echo Rich, I really, really hope so. I had tonight down as the win, and I thought we'd get a point at home against Bournemouth. So, yeah, we'll discuss how big it is on Thursday night and keep the faith. Why not? Yes, 3 points incoming by 4 p.m. on Sunday afternoon.
Keep the faith.